Let's get more reactions on Trump's 20% tariffs on Philippine goods. Joseph Puruganan joins us via Zoom. He's the co-convener of Trade Justice Pilipinas Network, and he's also co-director of Focus on the Global South, a progressive regional think tank. Good afternoon, Joseph.
Good afternoon, Mai.
So some say Trump's tariffs will have little effect on the Philippine economy, while others are saying otherwise. What's your take, given that the U.S. remains the primary destination for Philippine exports?
Well, as what we've heard in the report prior to this interview, the Philippine government has expressed serious concerns. So this is not something that we can take lightly. No, so what will be the effects? For one, it will mean that our exports to the United States will become more costly, which would then have repercussions on the level of domestic production. So higher costs would make our exports less competitive. Mm-hmm. And here, one major concern is also in relation to our ASEAN neighbors, no? Vietnam in particular. Yeah. So even at an earlier rate of 17% announced in April on what called the Liberation Day, the government was already worried that this will have an impact on export competitiveness. And now that Vietnam has also entered into a deal already with the US, the first in Asia, so this has really become I think a much bigger concern for the government.
Yes, so Philippine exports will now be 20% more expensive. Can you explain just how big is our exports to the U.S. and what products are these?
Yeah, as you said, no, the U.S. remains one of the top export destinations for the Philippines. So the trade with the U.S. amounts to, based on USTR estimates, $23.5 billion in 2024. The U.S. exports to the Philippines around 9.3 billion, while the U.S. imports from the Philippines a total of $14.2 billion. So there's a trade deficit, and this is what Trump has been harping about. If you read the I think very strongly worded letter of Trump, so he was really assailing the Philippine government for this trade deficit. So I think that is the part of the narrative of Trump, is that all of a sudden the U.S. has become a victim of this global trade, no, and a regime that it had helped create in the first place. No, the imbalanced trade that now exists is partly because of the policies that the U.S. has, enacted and also imposed globally. So I think that's a big part of it. What goods? Primarily electronics exports, semiconductor exports to the U.S. So this includes also like ignition wiring, but there are also other manufactured goods and agricultural products like coconut oil, and then also textiles, garments, and apparel are also major Philippine exports to the U.S. that would face now higher tariffs. No, I'm not sure, because in the Liberation Day announcement there was a exemption. No? A number of products were exempted, including semiconductors. It's not so clear to me, reading the letter of Trump, the more recent pronouncements, whether those exemptions stand. No, because if not, and as I said, semiconductors is a major export to the U.S., then it doubly becomes a big concern for the Philippines.
Right. Now, Ambassador Romualdez and even Special Assistant to the President, Frederick Go, earlier said that the Philippines will renegotiate with the U.S. Are you optimistic this tariff can still be lowered?
Well, I think the more critical question for us is what will the government be willing to compromise, bring the U.S. tariffs down. And I think realistically, it cannot be brought down to zero, but realistically just to 10%, which was what was being targeted. So I think that is the more critical question. That is what we're more worried about, that the government will trade away existing protections to domestic agriculture and industries, As I said in the letter, Trump assailed what we feel in a mafia boss tone, the Philippines' tariff and non-tariff policies that to him caused the trade deficit with the U.S., which he considers a threat to their economic and national security. But these policies that we have are in place for a reason. They are meant to support local food producers. They are tools to develop and support industries, to move up the value chain to regulate food safety. So as I said, the bigger worry is that the renegotiation, in effect, will mean capitulation to Trump's demands.
What do you see are some of the long-term implications? For example, how much of an impact will it have on jobs?
Yeah, I mean, even before the announcement, we have already seen job losses, particularly in the manufacturing sector. So, especially given that we are pushing for this development path that is export-driven, so an effect on making our exports more expensive and less competitive would also have implications on domestic production, and by that also implications on jobs. And so as I said, there are already layoffs reported in the manufacturing sector. So this is worrisome as well from that point of view.
Yes. Now, other ASEAN countries are getting higher tariff rates. How will this now affect the Philippines?
Well, our view on this, we reject the idea that this new tariff structure could be viewed as an opportunity for the Philippines, to try and edge out its neighbors, given that we, as was mentioned in the report, we are the lowest as far as ASEAN is concerned. So we reject that notion, that this would then make us more competitive and we can use it to entice more investments to move to the Philippines. Rather, we see this as a race to the bottom that eventually benefits only the U.S. and other rich countries, in particular the transnational corporations that control the supply chain. So rather than discussing how we can edge out our neighbors, we must really move towards rethinking trade, and like, for example, how do we deepen regional solidarity within ASEAN? How do we broaden and rebalance trade relationships, especially with nations that respect development, sovereign development paths, and do not use trade as a political cudgel.
Yes.
So for us, that should be the direction, not looking at this as an opportunity for the Philippines.
Well, experts have said this can open up more opportunities with other countries in the region, like we foster a healthier relationship with our trade partners. But what should the Philippine strategy be to get through this or somehow cushion the impact on the Philippine economy?
I mean, if you look at the structure of trade now, we're talking about supply chains, right? And really for us, there's really more reason for developing countries like the Philippines, like Indonesia, like Vietnam, to actually work things together, because we are at the tail end of the supply chains, and the countries, the more developed countries, and the transnational corporations that actually control the chain wield so much power in determining not just who gets access to these resources, but the level of who benefits as well from the supply chain. So our position is that it is better that we try to foster more solidarity within ASEAN, and that we must maybe look at shifting the course towards an economic strategy that is centered on meeting the needs of our own people, domestic needs, reviving our manufacturing, supporting domestic industries, ensuring food, energy, and wage security from within. So in other words, we need a development path that prioritizes resilience over dependency and sovereignty over subservience.
Joseph, appreciate your insights. Thanks so much for your time.
Thank you.
Joseph Puruganan, co-convener of Trade Justice Filipinas Network.